Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast Power Word Talk. Today we are talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and we will be trying to craft some homebrew items of all the Marvel characters. We might not finish them all today. There might be more parts of this, but anyway, this is hosted by yours truly. My name's Tanner, and my co-host here, Casey. We're going to be running through kind of all the Marvel characters like Iron Man, Spider-Man, that kind of thing, and just see if we can create their weapons in the Dungeons and Dragons world and try to make it fair. Or reasonable, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any you want to start with, or you looking forward to?
I think Captain America's shield is probably one I'm looking forward to.
Cool. So actually, I transitioned over, and it's not actually sharing my screen. So yeah, the first one we will start with is Captain America. You said, hey.
Wow, you want to start with Captain America? Okay, sure.
Very funny. We'll try to recreate his vibranium shield. So, if you want, I can kind of write down some key characteristics first, and then we can kind of work on that in a way to properly portray it in a D&D world. So what are some of the key characteristics?
So, vibranium, it's not a heavy element, is it? I can't remember. I get the
He throws his shield pretty light. I think it's pretty light.
Typically in D&D, shields aren't used as weapons.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it has to be a weapon first and a shield second.
I would say it needs to be a healthy mix of both, but I would say weapon first. Like, you can have it give +2 AC or something, or +3.
I make it a martial melee weapon. So I feel like it's not a simple weapon. I feel like you need like pretty decent weapon training to use it effectively as a weapon, in my opinion.
It should have thrown weapon. It needs the thrown property, right?
Yeah, so it definitely has a thrown property.
It's round. Yeah. Does it have to be round? For it to make sense to bounce back, it has to be round, right? It has to be a circle.
I think that's like a
very iconic, right?
Yeah.
Unless you use magic to pull it back, but
yeah, I'd have a hard time imagining a rectangular shield bouncing between enemies. But
yeah, it has
to. If DM discretion,
and it has to be because I'm thinking too. It has to be relatively small so that it can be thrown in lightweight, right? It can't be a massive shield that like you're laying into the ground, which leads it to be more of a circle.
What kind of metal would it be made out of in D&D? I'd call it adamantium, because adamantium falls into that category of being like unbreakable, kind of.
And he has super strength, which is why he can throw it so well. So
yeah, so maybe there's a strength requirement for the shield.
You know what? I could definitely say that. Potentially maybe like 15?
Maybe 17. I think you need 15 to wear plate armor. Yeah, like plate armor has a strength requirement of 15. So I'd probably
17.
Put an adamantium shield at 17 if you want to throw it.
What do you think? Like, should there be some sort of ability or requirement enabled to catch it in order to receive it properly? Or is it just magic pulling it back to you no matter what? Or is it actually bouncing?
Yeah, I'd like it to bounce. And I think
that seems more akin to the shield itself, to the real thing.
Yeah, I would make it magical such that no matter what, it's going to come back to you, but maybe the number of times it bounces it depends on how well you rolled the attack roll.
I'm kind of thinking, as far as it bouncing, maybe it's some kind of magic where it will continue to bounce in between enemies as long as they're within 5 feet of the previous enemy, and it will keep like pinballing off of them until there's like no more enemies, and then it comes back to you. What do you think about that?
Let's write it down, but I think that might be too strong.
Okay.
I'm thinking like it might just be like you toss it, it hits something, it comes back to you, and say that if you get a critical hit, it'll bounce one more time, in which case you make another attack roll, and if you crit then it'll bounce again. So it bounces as long as you keep critting.
Interesting.
So if you're a champion fighter, you might actually be able to get this thing to bounce quite a lot.
Or even off objects, right? Because you should be able to use this utility wise, where you can bounce it off like a light and it comes back, or off multiple lights or something to like break them, or like to put the candles out. We're gonna say it should be easy right now to bounce off. You should be able to bounce it off of anything.
Yeah.
That you want, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that wouldn't even be a magical thing where it bounces from enemy to enemy. It just maybe you can select up to 3 objects within 5 feet of each other to bounce it off of.
I would say that would be because of magic. If it was skill
Mm.
based purely, then I
Yeah.
would say that you'd have to be rolling crits to make it bounce. But if it's
Mm.
magical in nature, then
How about this?
let's
Your attack score basically determines what you can hit or how many objects you can bounce it off of.
that came to my mind, like your strength modifier. So if you have strength +3, then you can
I was
choose
even
3
just
hits.
thinking whatever you roll. Say you roll a 15 or say you roll 20 plus, then you can bounce it off of 5 objects. But if you roll 15 plus, maybe 3.
So like when you make your attack roll,
Yeah.
and you
Because I feel like that's
maybe.
when you're throwing it, that's kind of determining how well you throw it.
Mhm. But then do you do subsequent attack rolls for each target it hits?
No, I would say that one just counts to those, and like let's say it would just miss the one enemy, but it would bounce off something else and hit the other one. I don't know.
I in 5th edition you got to keep it really simple.
Yeah.
Otherwise you can't have it be too convoluted.
Mm-hmm. So
So
maybe you do just make multiple attack rolls for each object you want to bounce it off of.
I think you have to do that. Otherwise
I
it's like you
think
can't just roll an attack roll for one
so, like
creature.
Eldritch Blast or like Scorching Ray, something similar, where like each beam or whatever, each blast, you roll an attack. Because essentially the shield needs to come back, right? It kind of has to. I don't see a scenario where it can get grabbed or like just taken away from you.
Yeah, I was thinking like magic, you could just recall it. Like similar to like the dwarven thrower, like you throw the hammer and
Mm-hmm.
then after the attack is done, it just comes right back to you. I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking adding that property to the shield where
A
no
magical
matter what it
property
is.
where, as like a bonus action, you can recall it, or
No, just once the attack is finished, it just makes it
okay.
just comes back
So
automatically.
basically, so as far as skill goes, it's to bounce it in between objects or enemies, but then as far as it doesn't have to bounce back to you though. It just return. It will actually automatically return to you. So you're just trying to bounce it, not bounce it and return it.
Yeah, that's the direction it's going.
Okay.
Although, like, if you think about Captain America, like he does lose the shield. So we
Should
could
a critical
just
fail,
say,
maybe if you roll a 1, it doesn't come back to you.
oh sure, yeah,
Right? That sounds kind of fair. Risk and reward a bit.
sure, yeah.
Because then there is the chance it can maybe be caught or it doesn't return, really, whatever you want to kind of roleplay it as in that situation. Then it's essentially just a normal shield, and maybe you can have a chance to return it on the next turn, maybe as like a bonus action or something to recall it. I think that's fair,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, something like that.
And then, so let's say someone's grabbing onto it, then it would just be a strength competition between the shield and him. Or even yourself, but that doesn't really seem fair. So maybe we'll give the strength or the shield itself like 18 strength, like +4 against whatever they are, or +5, right? That seems fair. Shield shield has strength mod of 18. Yeah, 18 seems fair to me. If it's magic pulling it back for you to fight something off.
Sure.
And if you're facing a really strong enemy, why can't it hold on to it, I guess? And then I still have written down, now we kind of just need to figure out the bouncing and the damage, right? Like, how does the bouncing mechanic work? And then damage we can do last. Because basically, I think a requirement for the bouncing is that it has to be able to bounce off of objects and creatures. If you want it.
Yeah, you should be able to bounce it off of like a wall.
Like around a corner even would be kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like you're playing like pool, just
yeah, and like it would still be a disadvantage if you can't see them, but you can also still make the shot, I guess.
Sure, yeah, I can see that. Or like if they have like 3/4 cover, you might be able to bounce it in such a way that it ignores cover.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I was thinking with that.
What do you think the range on this would be when thrown?
You know, like typically thrown weapons are
30 feet,
20 feet, and then 60 long range. So it might fall into that category
20 and
of
60.
2060.
Okay.
Anything else, I think, is too generous for throwing a shield, especially a heavy shield.
20, 20. I kind of like the idea of 30, but if you're throwing a shield 20 feet and you want it to still bounce back to you, that seems fair.
Yeah, let me see what typically.
And of course, you can use it in close range too. You should be able to hurt somebody with this close range.
Yeah.
Like you kind of jab them with it.
When I'm making homebrew magic items, I try to find things that are similar to what I want,
That's fair.
and I apply those properties
In order to
it.
balance it.
Yeah. Otherwise, like you risk like going totally off the rails and making something that, like, even if it's not that strong, it's like it feels like really out of place.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, like I know it sounds goofy, but like one of the properties of vibranium is that it absorbs energy, right? So when it hits the wall, it's absorbing the energy from the wall to like
How about
keep going.
let's say this. So 20 range on the initial attack and then 10 in between each other recurring bounce.
Okay.
That seems fair, right? Because it should lose a little bit of power, but at the same time, because it can't just, it shouldn't be as far as the original throw. Should we also throw a disadvantage on the bounce then? If it's trying to bounce further, like say if it's trying to go anywhere past 10 feet, it's at disadvantage up to 20 feet.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Okay. So now, as far as the bouncing, how do you determine what bounces between where? Do you have a skill check? Do you have your attack check? Do you have some sort of DC? Do you just have a magic mechanic?
I think we just gotta call it magic and say
Okay.
it targets what you want to.
Okay, in the order that you want.
Yeah, so it'd be like if
select 3 targets before throwing it.
Sure. Yeah.
Or can you do one at a time? See if the first one hits and then determine after that. I think that's fair too.
I think that's fine. Yeah, it's like if the shield hits and you trigger the second bounce, then you get to select the next target. You basically like make a second attack.
Yeah, because essentially, if you make your first attack and it misses, that's it. Right? You don't even get the bounces or anything, which is fair.
Yep.
Right? Because if you completely whiff your first throw, you shouldn't be able to keep bouncing it.
Yeah. So like, say like when you make a ranged attack with your shield, or when you hit with a ranged attack with your shield, select another target and make another ranged attack against it, or like make a ranged attack against a second creature.
So how many do we want? What's the limit on this? I'm thinking 3 to 5 is kind of a range that seems fair. I really want the possibility for someone to position themselves properly where they could hit a bunch of people, but then we would lower the damage if that's the case, right? Or we increase the damage and have a lower amount of people that it hits, right?
Oh, so that's an interesting thought. So say how would this work? So say the shield starts off as like a 1d8.
Okay.
The next time it hits, it's a 1d6. The next time it hits,
it does less damage.
Yeah.
But infinite enemies. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it just doing less damage. And maybe a d4 at the lowest.
And say that if you roll the maximum amount on that dice, it doesn't decrease in size. So say that it starts as a d8.
Okay.
If you roll an 8, it stays a d8. So it goes to the next target.
I like that.
So then it goes down to a d6, but if you roll a 6, then it stays a 6. So it just keeps bouncing until it goes from a d4 to nothing.
I'm okay with that, I think.
It might be a little insane. You might want to start it as.
I kind of like consistency though too. Something more consistent might be just more useful, because if it's so inconsistent, you might just choose not to use it because you don't really know what will happen. It can essentially, the d4s won't do anything. They really don't do any damage unless it has an effect on it, right? Like you don't really care about that damage. Even a d6 is like
I'd add your strength modifier to it.
Oh, to each one. Okay, that could be fair. Great weapon master. Hello. That would be amazing. So, because essentially, I'm thinking this sort of item would be in the very rare category. I don't think you want it to be legendary. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think you want it to just be rare, obviously. I think very rare should be fair, and we should try to power it to that level.
Yeah.
Um, I do like the idea of decreasing damage, but then allowing it to just bounce as many times until you miss. As long
Mm-hmm.
as it's like something within the range. But then I'm thinking, let's say they want to bounce it off a wall within 20 feet, and then bounce it off something else, and then bounce it off an enemy within another 10 feet, right? Like you could
Mm-hmm.
just theoretically keep it going, which isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have to put a limit on what it can bounce against, like how many targets. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we just have to. So maybe 5. How does 5 feel?
I put it at 3. If you throw the shield, you hit, and you roll a 4, then that's the trigger to make it bounce again. Instead of doing the degrading dice, it's just like you have a 25% chance that this shield will bounce again.
Oh, the chance goes down. Hmm.
Like the chance stays the same instead of it changing.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Hmm.
but I don't know.
That's also kind of just the same as rolling an attack roll.
Mm,
Because you're thinking an attack roll on the initial throw, and then like something like a D4 on every subsequent bounce.
yeah.
Hmm. A 25% chance. Is that enough to be useful, though? I think it should be more of a 50-50. Because I'm thinking 25% is just like you're going to assume it won't work. But
Mm-hmm.
it should be high enough where you like there's a good chance, or it can be a swing. Either it works and it works really well, or it doesn't and it's trash. Because also 25% on each bounce, you'll get like 2 bounces, 1 bounce. Like, nah. I feel like you should have a higher chance, because your chances do get worse as it keeps bouncing anyway.
Yeah. If it's a very rare item, you're right.
Because in that case, if we are gonna put it where instead of attack rolls, but we can maybe have just a percent, like a 50-50, then I'm okay with increasing it from 3 targets to maybe 6.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking like, say like I throw a 7d20, so I'll roll the hit.
Yeah,
I get a 15. So I'm gonna roll. So I'll say that's a hit. I'll roll my d4 damage.
yeah,
I rolled a 2, so I did 2 plus my strength damage, and then it comes back to me. So say that I rolled a 4 on that damage, so I do 4 plus my strength damage to the creature I hit. Now that's saying, okay, now I can choose a second target. So
oh,
I
you're
rolled
still
a
thinking like that, where if you roll the because you're using this D4 as a damage dice.
Yeah, I'm using it as the damage dice and the determining factor whether or not
Okay,
it keeps
because I
bouncing.
was kind of thinking we just have a separate roll for the chance of it hitting, like bouncing altogether, like a D4, and then maybe it's a 50-50, where if you roll 3 or 4, it
Mhm.
continues to bounce.
Okay,
um
actually, that's good. Let's do the 3 or 4, but I like tying it to the damage dice
hmm. Do you want to make it a
because
D6 then, where it's 3, 4, 5, or no, 4, 5, 6?
sure, you could convince me to do a d6.
Because
So,
then I think that's right at the level where it's useful,
yeah.
especially if it keeps bouncing.
Mhm.
And maybe we limit it to like 8 targets, because your chances just get so bad anyway. Like if
The inter-
Go
the
ahead.
interesting thing about adamantium is that it crits on objects, right? So
Right,
if you throw it at a wall, let's say that you still roll the d6, but you roll it twice. As long
obviously.
as one of those is your 4, 5, 6, it bounces.
I'm totally
And
okay with that.
and say it's like a d10 to hit the wall, like
Okay.
it's not that hard.
Must roll higher than 3 to
Or
continue.
three or higher on the damage
No, not
dice
3
for it.
or higher. Like you want 4, 5, and
Oh,
6.
sorry. Yeah, yeah, you're right. 4, 5, 6.
Because yeah, it's kind of hard to have these mechanics simple, but you still need them to kind of match up with how it works in like the movies and the comics.
Yeah. So that's why I like if it's tied to the damage dice. It's like that way
I
you're not rolling like 3 dice. Like you
I
just like
agree.
I think it's better if it's tied to the damage dice.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. 1d6, is that fair? Maybe on the first initial hit though, it should do more than the bounces. What do you think? Like a d10 and then d6s for the rest?
Or how about your strength modifier is only added to the first hit?
Hmm. Only d6s for for all the subsequent.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, is that impactful enough? It sounds like it will be, because it's an AoE weapon.
Yeah,
right?
it's typically AoEs don't add your ability modifiers to the damage.
Okay, so we're doing 1d6.
Mhm.
Um, you can only add your ability modifier to the first attack, to the
Yeah,
initial attack.
yeah, I think so.
It's made of adamantium.
Mhm.
Strength requirement of 17. I suppose I'll put to wield.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty
martial
pretty much.
melee weapon with thrown property.
Yeah.
Magically returns after every attack except on a 1.
Hmm.
Or except when rolling a 1, but we know what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bonus action to recall the shield. Seems fair, so you can do that all in one turn, I think, right? You should be able to use that. If you miss your attack, you should be able to the chance to get it back. Because yeah, if you throw it at someone and you get a 1, it kind of makes sense that they would be able to grab it. But no, I don't know. Maybe we'll just leave that. We'll keep the strength mod of 18 just in case someone has an ability that allows them to react or to potentially catch it or to stop it.
Yeah, like a monk or
Yeah.
somebody with gloves of missile snaring. I think
Okay.
they should be
So
able to
yeah,
try and catch.
we'll leave that up to the enemies, I guess, to see if they have anything that should allow them to catch it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a miss and it falls to the ground. Because I guess technically too, um, they let's say you don't have a bonus action for whatever reason. Maybe you already
Hmm.
used it, and then it's laying on the ground. They can pick it up, and then if you try to recall it, that while they're holding it, then they can make their strength save or competition
Right.
roll. Right?
Oh, here's a question: does the shield require attunement?
Yeah, for sure. Right?
I think it does. If it has the property to return back to you, I think
Yeah,
that's something that you need to be
I
attuned
think
to.
so. Yeah.
Like the dwarven thrower, I think, is probably a good example. Although that's legendary, but still like that.
Okay, I think that works out really well. +2 AC, while wielded.
Hmm.
And does it need anything else defensively? I don't think it does. It's already like adamantium, so it's pretty indestructible. There is the
Hmm.
absorbing energy factor, which like would it mitigate some sort of maybe it makes it's resistant to slashing, bludgeoning, that kind of thing.
What if once, maybe I'll say just I'll start with once. Say once per dawn, you
Okay,
may cast the absorb element spell through it.
that aligns with it for sure.
So you can like say like a dragon
As a free action,
blows. No, it's a reaction,
react. Okay, okay, yeah, oh
right?
yeah, I guess, yeah, yeah.
So it breathes fire on you. You can absorb elements. Now your shield has extra fire damage to
Once per
it.
dawn. I'm just thinking because this is already so powerful as it is.
That's why I'm like keeping it to one. So you could probably leave it. Maybe you don't need the absorb elements. Isn't like you see Captain America's shield like absorbing
I agree
lightning
because
and
it
then
doesn't redirect it, right? It doesn't really.
yeah.
I'm thinking because I think we'll save that for Black Panther's suit. That's where it actually stores energy and then does that. I
Hmm.
think we'll save that idea for Black Panther. I
Okay,
think
sure.
that could be really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. So it's very rare, requires attunement, makes sense. Made of adamantium, near indestructible. And it's magic, which is already hard to destroy, a magic item.
Yeah.
Strength requirement is 17 to wield. A martial melee weapon with thrown property. Magically returns after every attack except on a 1. Bonus action to recall the shield. Athletic competition for an enemy to stop the shield from returning.
Hmm.
A range attack of 2060 on the initial throw. Each bounce must be within 10 to 20 feet, with 20 being a disadvantage. 1d6 magical bludgeoning damage. Or no, sorry, did we want to make that 1d... No, 1d6 on the initial one.
Yeah,
Or
we'll
just on
call it
all
one
of them.
d6. It's basically like a d6 is like a short sword.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like put it on par with that
Okay.
at least.
So 1d6, only add the ability modifier for the first attack. And then the roll must be higher than 300 damage roll for it to ricochet at another target, and you must make a new attack roll for each ricochet, and +2 AC. So now I'm thinking if you have multi-attack, it keeps coming back to you. Like you can have 2 or 3 different attacks.
Yep. Yep.
I think that's fair because that's the
Yeah.
part where it's like that's where it could be. It seems weak on one attack, but if you have multi-attack, where
Yeah.
you can just keep it ricocheting between people, I think that's very fair.
Yep. Yeah, like if you have like a champion fighter, like level 20, like I could see that being like
And
ridiculously good.
this only uses the strength stat, correct? It doesn't. It's not versatile where it would use dex
Finesse,
or
correct. Yeah.
finesse. Yeah,
Yeah, it's purely a strength thing in my mind.
yeah. I think that could be very usable in its current
Hmm.
state. I think you. It's obviously meant to be hard to get and be, but I think it's also one of those items where it's so iconic. Where once you get it, like you have Captain America's shield. You can obviously name it something else, but
Yeah.
we,
Yeah, I
we
think
all
it'd be
know what
fun.
it is.
I think maybe like a little caveat is that like the shield can target like walls and objects, right? Like say that there's only one monster in the room,
Yeah,
but if there's like a wall nearby, you should be able to throw it and it like you should just if there's no creature nearby, you roll to hit the wall.
to damage
You
it.
roll the damage against the wall.
I
And
agree.
since it's adamantium, you crit on objects.
Yeah,
So it's more likely to bounce back. So you might be able to ricochet off the wall multiple times
I
to hit
agree. That's
something.
why I've been using the word target. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
instead add another target because obviously I could put in parentheses. I don't know, just object or creature.
Yeah, creature or object, I think. Um,
Um,
or like creature, object, or
I mean,
surface.
as long as I just say target, I think
Yeah.
that's fine, right? Because it's really not saying a creature. And like you can
Yeah.
shoot your arrow at a wall. Why can't you just throw this, right? You can throw a dagger at a wall. It's just an attack
Yeah.
roll. So,
Yeah.
so that is us creating Captain America's shield. Um, I guess we can make this a whole series of just creating every Avengers weapon, or at least attempting it.
Yeah.
Um, in the best way we can. I
Yeah.
actually really enjoy that, and I think it could be useful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add to this, or any flavor?
Um, I think I'd leave flavor up to the DM. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you could like, you know, this shield didn't come from Wakanda in your D&D world, so you can like consider like, oh, like was this forged by dwarves? Was it created in like the elemental planes out
I have
of?
an idea.
Sure, what's your idea?
You could leave it very vague in describing it. So, this is an alien material,
Hmm.
once used by a great warrior. Right? Like
Hmm.
you could kind of give it a very vague backstory, of
Yeah.
a unique alien, a unique metal, or it's not even unique. I guess it's adamantium,
Yeah, we
but
chose adamantium, so
yeah.
it's like meteorite material, so
Uh,
it's already kind of alien in that way. So
or maybe something like a magical shield once wielded by a great warrior, um, in order to, I don't like to, I want to add bouncing in there, or like ricocheting, a great enemy or a great warrior that was strong enough to use it against multiple enemies. I don't
you might even say a great avenger.
know.
Uh,
But yeah, I think something like that, just to spice it
yeah,
up, to kind
the
of
dungeon.
refer to Captain America without saying his name.
Yeah, yeah. And the Dungeon Master's Guide has ways to like. I've started adding random flavors, like say
Mm-hmm.
like gauntlets of overstrength. Well, there's a table that's like you roll a d20. It's like okay, like who created these? Oh, like it's Fate and Origin.
Okay,
Oh, this is
cool.
a Fate
And
wild.
spoiler
But
alert, I don't know how we're gonna do Hulk, because I was just thinking it's just the gauntlets of
oh yeah,
like
yeah.
giant strength. But we'll look at that another time. Maybe find a way to spice it up.
Oh sure, yeah,
Yeah, we'll do whoever you want next time. We got a bunch to go through. Um,
yeah,
I actually really enjoyed that, and I'm very happy that we did a shield, because shields are boring in D&D. Let's be
yeah,
honest, they are very boring, and I think this at least adds a way to spice up your playstyle.
yeah. I think so.
Cool. You know what might be fun too? Maybe you have to go on a quest and find it where it's buried in ice, in like some kingdom that's buried in ice, right? That's been frozen over. I think that could be like really fun.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, should we add some kind of property? No, like it's cold to the touch. Just like a little flavor thing. I think that would be fun. Just as like
Sure.
little hints back to it, right? Um,
Yeah. Um,
or it whispers "Hail Hydra" in your ear.
maybe.
Because I was
Oh,
thinking you
you have
could
to
make
kill a
it.
Hydra to get to it. There's like a quest where you
Oh
have to kill a Hydra.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Like
Like
I
a
feel like there's so many
Hydra.
cool things.
Yeah.
A Hydra in like under like an ice cave or something.
Yeah.
Because
Why
maybe
not?
it's like a hot spring underwater or under the ice. It's cold on top, and then you go
Hmm.
underground, and it's kind of like a hot spring. I think that
Yeah.
could be really cool with a Hydra.
Yeah. That'd be pretty sweet.
That yeah, and a whole secret organization. Okay, well,
Yeah.
anything else you want to say before I wrap this up?
No.
Okay. Well, let me switch over to the bigger screen here. Thank you guys very much for watching our podcast. We hope you
Hmm.
found it interesting. I definitely did, actually. I really like the direction that this is going. We're going to do a lot more D&D content, a lot more Ashes of Creation. I really want to try World of Warcraft content. Even though I'm not into it, I am curious about it, and I know Casey is. It's just a lot of it is just, it's hard to say good stuff about it lately,
Yeah.
to put it lightly. So
Hmm.
I'm curious. Arcade 2 was announced recently. Maybe we'll do some info about that. Yeah, there it is. Come back to another video of us talking about it. And thank you all for watching. My name is Tanner. This is Casey. Signing out. Bye bye.